What's up everybody, Unrested here, and today I'm here to talk to you about how to visit Japan. Now, I've got other series on how to work here, get a job here, different types of visas and stuff like that. This is only going to be about how to visit the big red dot in the middle of that rectangle of white, Japan. So listen close. I'm going to go step by step, pretty much the same way you would plan a trip and the same way your trip would unfold. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to leave them in the comments or PM me with a private message. Let's begin. First on our list we have planning. I've actually written down plans right here on my own iPhone so that I can read them to you little by little and know where I'm at in my notes. Planning is the first thing you want to do. You don't want to just hop on a plane, get over there, and not know what to see or where to go. Where do you want to go to begin with? You need to choose between Tokyo and Osaka, or you can choose one of the more historical places such as Kyoto, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. You can go up to Hokkaido and learn about the Ainu, or go down to Okinawa. Where do you want to go? If you want a very urban adventure, you want to choose Osaka or Tokyo. I myself live in Osaka, and the aspect of Osaka that I love the most is that it has all the great big city-type places that Tokyo has without as much of a crowd. But for some of you, you may know some famous places there you really want to see, like Shinjuku, Shibuya, and all the different special crossings, lights, signs, and activities going on there. I understand that. You might want to go to Tokyo. Now, if you're more in for a visit to temples and shrines, Kyoto, the former capital of Japan, might be the place for you. So think about that first. Next up, you're going to want to go ahead and check out some websites that are going to help you out with your little tour of Japan, unless you're actually going to schedule someone to set up a tour for you, which I can sometimes recommend and sometimes not. The pros being that you will get a very full trip and have a very full day. The downsides being you may have to go to a few places that would not normally be a want or a need for your own personal trip. You may also find yourself eating, dining, visiting, and going to places that are a bit of a tourist trap. So watch out for some of that. Maybe get some background on the tour company you go with before you choose one. I personally have never used a tour guide or any sort of tour service here in Japan, so unfortunately I have no information for you on that. I can say that I have set up my own little tours for my friends, my family, and anyone else I know who has come to visit here and asked me for a little bit of tour. I've helped some other people visit some places that are a bit underground, a bit nook and cranny in between the niches of different parts of Japanese society. And that's a little bit what I want to talk to you about when you're planning your own trip. Maybe check out some sites first that have a little more than Lonely Planet would have in one of their books. For example, whynotjapan.com. Really good one. gaijinpot.com. And if you really want to get edgy, there's a great site you can go to called fuckedgaijin.com. I'll put a list of all those in the notes below, and they'll also probably appear here on the screen right next to me. Possibly here, maybe? Here, I don't know. Anyway, those are a few of my own recommendations. First, after you've chosen whether you want a natural or historical visit to Japan, or an urban one, next you need to go to one of those sites, choose the places you want to go, or perhaps choose the tour service that you want to use. Now, depending on what part of the world you're coming from, because I'm not assuming everybody's an American like myself, you will be arriving in one of two airports, KIX or Narita, NRT. Narita is in Tokyo, KIX is with me here in Osaka. One of those big international airports will be where you are arriving. Now, I have been in Narita Airport probably 3 or 4 times, and I can say from my own point of view that it is very well laid out. A lot of signage, a lot of English instructions. There's also Brazilian and Korean and Chinese as well, if perhaps you do not speak English as a native language. You will easily be able to find your destination. Customer service is extremely helpful, and the great thing is that most of the ground staff can speak, if not perfect English, somewhat very good English. So you will not get too lost, and people will make sure you are set in the right direction. Same goes for KIX. I have to say it's very well laid out. It's a little bit smaller and a little more quaint in the way that it's built. Nonetheless, it is a very efficient and well-run airport. So that's going to be one of your first stops. Narita, KIX. If there's another one I don't know about, perhaps later this video is too old and there's a new international airport, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about time. Moving on to transportation, you're going to probably need to take either a bus, a taxi, or a train or subway to get to wherever your hotel or place of reservation is at. So, if you're coming from my area of town, which I have traversed the most, I would say, my experience is one of the best trains to take into the city if you're coming to Osaka is the Haruka train. Haruka is a high-speed train, not Shinkansen level, that's bullet train for those of you who don't know what Shinkansen means. It's not bullet train level, but it is a very high speed, maybe 30-minute ride into the city. Otherwise, you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour with any other local train that needs to make a lot of stops. Moving on from there, if you decide to take a bus, usually it's called airport limousine. Most of those buses will get you out to a station called Okat, which is in the middle of downtown Osaka here in Kansai Prefecture. You can also, of course, take a taxi, but expect that to be outrageously priced, especially if you've come at night. You may be looking at as much as $200 to ride in the city, so I do not advise it. Night bus, daytime bus, airport limousine, subway. Those are only things that I suggest. The subway is really more so a train slash subway. There's parts where it goes underground, there's parts where it's above ground. You can argue either way. I don't care about semantics. Go ahead and use which one you prefer and whichever one best fits your budget. Now with Narita and Tokyo, I'm not quite as familiar, so make sure when you get off, the first thing you want to do is ask somebody either, number one, where do the airport buses come by, or number two, where does the subway connect to the airport, or perhaps train. Once you get there, you will look at the map there of the train lines, and most likely, if it is the same as Osaka, and I'm almost 100% sure it is, you will be taking JR Line, Japan Railways, to go ahead and get to the middle of Tokyo City. Now, if you are trying to make it out to a different part of Japan, such as Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Okinawa, Hokkaido, you will most likely be taking a connecting flight, in which case you have a very esoteric and specific flight plan and form of transportation to take to the area that you're going to. Mine is a very generalized city-dwelling tour. I can't help you, unfortunately, with those very, very specific ones. Check-in. Once you get to your hotel, your place of residence, or wherever you're staying with reservations, go ahead and get checked in. They will most likely give you great customer service. Most places will almost always speak at least a little bit of English. If nothing else, they'll be able to speak the English or vocabulary that surrounds things such as booking a room, reservations, booking a flight, booking a taxi, tours around town close to their area. If you start to get into very, very esoteric and specific conversations, you might blow their mind. If you're getting into anything that's politics or news-based and using very big verbiage, be prepared to get some confused looks. Try to stick to what that staff is good at, what they know, and what you think their daily life would revolve around. If you talk to a janitor, talk to them with cleaning words. If you talk to a staff member at the desk, talk to them about booking rooms. Try not to vary too much outside of that vocabulary so as to keep a non-confusing conversation. Next up, we got something probably almost everyone in the world, aside from those very close Asian nations and perhaps sometimes my Australian friends, don't have to complain about, and that is jet lag, the dreaded jet lag. Depending on where you came from and how your body is, it'll kick in anywhere from 1 to 3 days into your trip. And when it happens, get ready to come down with a bad case of the sleepies. My best advice for you is if you can try and stay up through most of the flight and then crash at nighttime when you get there to get yourself ready with their circadian rhythm, that would be the best thing you can do, but that's not always possible. Also, if you have things like kids and other family members who cannot change their schedule quite as easily, this complicates matters more. Just be ready. It's going to hit you at some time or another. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. When I got here, it took me 3 days before it finally hit me, and it hit me hard. I finally had to have a day where I slept all day to catch up. Might not hit you as bad, but I'm kind of an unrested guy, as you guys all know. Look into, go ahead and setting up the possibility that it's going to hit you in the first 3 days, and by that I mean keep your tours somewhat closer to your hotel, so if you do suddenly start to wind down or get that sudden bad case of the sleepies, you can quickly get back. You don't want to have your hotel room somewhere in the middle of Namba when you're out in the middle of Nara petting deer and you have to take a 2-hour train ride to get back to your poor hotel room where you're crashing on the train, you're missing your stops, you're totally lost now and you can't find where the heck you are. Bad case. Deal with the jet lag early. Location, location, location. Now this is something I've kind of already talked about with planning. Know some places that you want to go to before you set your trip to come over here. At the same time, I would say try to keep your places somewhat close to your hotel. You will find that the farther you get, the more trains you might have to switch over to. There might even be parts where you have to take buses to get out there, and let me tell you, unless you're pretty much fluent at Japanese or kanji, taking buses places in Japan can be pretty confusing. That is because a lot of the kana, that means the pronunciation behind the kanji of the places that you will visit, are very, very specific to the area, and the sounds will change and you're not going to hear them correctly when the bus driver mumbles them over the speakers. So if you come into an area and it's your very first trip in Japan, I would say try to visit locations that are close to you, that you can get a lot of information from the booth at the service desk at your hotel or wherever your reservation is at. And also try to keep it within places that you can take a look at a pamphlet or a book first and that you know quite a bit about, and maybe perhaps have a map that helps you traverse it. If you can, bring that map along and don't be afraid to use it. If words fail both parties trying to help you in any certain circumstance, pictures are the best thing to bring out. Bust out that map and point to where you want to go. Pictures solve every imbalance of words. Sometimes eating out in Japan can be quite an adventure. There are some shops that you will see and not even possibly know that they are a restaurant unless you can already read the kanji and know what exactly they are selling. Some are literally holes in the wall. Some are merely stands in which you don't even have a seat to sit down at. Some are little more than a plastic tarp around a barrier in a bar in which you stand at and order drinks. Those can sometimes serve you some of the best tasting food in Japan and you wouldn't even know it. These are the places that are not in those Lonely Planet books, that are not in the mainstream media, and are never talked about internationally. These are the secrets of Japan and sometimes the greatest parts of it. At the same time, give some of the places that you know really well a chance. I would say probably steer clear of the more international places, such as Yoshinoya. You can go to California and eat there. Why you would come to Japan and eat there, I don't understand. Same with McDonald's. Unless you're absolutely fed up with Japanese food on your trip, your experience at McDonald's is not going to be that much different than your experience in whatever country you're from as far as a Western one. Go ahead and try to be adventurous. Don't worry if you're especially in the city or the very urban areas. Don't be scared to wander into any of these little shops. They're a mixing pot of culture and international life in the heart of Tokyo, in the heart of Namba, in the heart of Osaka downtown. Don't be afraid to wander into these places. They're not going to be blown away by, oh, gaijin, come into my place, right? I know it sounds crazy, but if you get out into Fukuoka countryside or maybe a really inaka, that means country in Japanese, type area of Japan, yes, you're going to have some big eyes staring you down, wondering why you're out there, what you're doing, maybe a little bit afraid or intimidated to serve you because they think probably you don't speak Japanese, they don't speak any English, they're worried about the barrier, they're not worried about you or anything you're going to do, they're not being racist, they're just worried about making sure they give you great customer service because that is paramount in Japan. Next up, we have something that I've labeled here in a very long title, so I'm going to read it off. Trains, taxis, car rental, and bike rental. Different forms of transportation around Japan. That should include subway too, but I assume that's under trains. The main thing you're probably going to be using when you come to Japan is the train and or subway system, unless you're in a very countryside area or if you're out in Okinawa where there are little to no trains. There's a very small monorail out there, so don't expect to use any train system out there. That's all there is. You can't build underground there. That's probably what you're going to be using the whole time. I would say if you can, buy a pass that lets you use local lines. Do not buy a pass for the Shinkansen, the bullet train, unless you plan to hit multiple prefectures on your trip to Japan. The bullet train goes very fast and is very exciting and very comfortable to ride in, but for an example, my parents bought a pass for that thinking they needed it and used it only one time to travel out to Nara, which they didn't even really need it for that to begin with. That's more so if you're going to go on a trip where you want to hit up as many places as possible from Osaka all the way out to Tokyo. That's a 2-hour distance on the Shinkansen. That's an 8-hour bus ride if you try to use a bus. So it makes sense to use that all day or all week pass if you're coming out here to visit both of those places. Now, if you're staying within one location, such as Osaka or Tokyo, just buy a local train pass. For Tokyo, I believe the card is called a Suica. I could be wrong, so check me on that. But I know for my area, there's Ikoka for JR line, and there is Pitapa for local-owned lines, everything from Midasuji, Kintetsu, Hanshin. Those are the name of some local lines. That card can let you ride all of them. The Japan Railways one is Ikoka, and that'll let you go through all of them. It's a great, very handy card that keeps charging straight from your credit card, so you don't have to keep buying a ticket to find out how much you have to pay for each place. As far as taxis in Japan, they are great. They don't tend to speak too much English, so be ready to have maybe some language barriers with some of the places you want to go. My advice is always bring a map or an address if possible. Every single taxi in Japan has a GPS, so they will be able to get you there if they can enter something into a GPS. Now, I will say be ready for the fact that after midnight, all the trains shut down. Maybe some stay a little bit later than midnight, like 12:30, but they're gonna shut down. That's when the taxis take over everything, and they're gonna charge you out the ass here in Japan. Lots of money. Be ready that if you're gonna travel away from your apartment at night, make it a close location. Otherwise, you're gonna end up charging quite a bit to get back home if you miss that last train, or you're gonna have to wait till 5 a.m. when the trains start back up. Bike rental and car rental. I'm going to cover both of these together. To rent a car here, you should be able to use a license, at least from any Western country that I know of, can transfer over to an international license, or you can just use your normal license for a short-time rental here in Japan. You will most likely have to buy insurance with that car. It is a temporary insurance and does not cost a lot. Car rental in Japan tends to be pretty cheap and comparable to most Western countries. As far as bike rental is concerned, it really varies on the area that you're renting the bike in. Most places aren't even going to rent a bike unless you're in a more countryside area to begin with. For example, Kyoto, where there's a lot of nature mixed with temples and shrines, when there's a lot of distance in between those and no sort of subway system or even possibly roads for cars to go on in between. That would make sense to rent a bike there. If you're in the middle of downtown Osaka or Tokyo, I do not recommend renting a bike. You're just going to get bottlenecked and probably have some pretty angry people looking at you on the street and sidewalks. Next up is one of my favorite topics, shopping. If you like to shop, holy hell, you're gonna love Japan. There is anything and everything you could possibly want in the very urban and city areas of Japan. You're going to pretty much have a lot of the same stores that you would have in any other country that are considered richy, high scale, or upper class. You've got your Dolce & Gabbana, you got your Zara, you got your Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. But then you're going to have, mixed into the crevices between those big luxurious buildings, is these little tiny weird mom and pop shops where they've made everything from goth Lolita clothes that are their own custom clothes to visual kei accessories and stuff like that. Go out of your way to look for those shops. Of course, if you're in Tokyo, you're going to go through the Shibuya area and look through that area there for a bunch of fashion, as well as this Shinjuku area too. Here in Osaka, I would highly recommend Shinsaibashi, Dotonbori, and Amemura, also known as American Village. Any other place in Japan, you're probably not going to have as good of a selection. Perhaps Hokkaido and their most urban downtown areas might have a pretty decent selection, but you're not going to have the really crazy wild stuff that Tokyo and Osaka are going to have. Sorry. As for going for manga, anime, toys, in Tokyo you've got Akihabara. Here in Osaka you have Nipponbashi / Denden Town. Check those areas out. If you miss them, you are missing a big part of what makes Japan fucking awesome. Next up is getting close to the end of our topics, and that is the omiyage. And some of you may say, well, Scott, I don't really study Japanese, I don't know this omiyage word. Omiyage is Japanese for souvenir. It is very customary to, if you are visiting a friend or meeting a friend in another country or have visited to another country recently, to bring an omiyage, a souvenir, back from or wherever you've come from to that friend in either your home country or the country you're visiting. For example, if you're coming from America and meeting a Japanese friend perhaps you met online, you should bring them something from your own country. Now, people always ask me, Scott, what would be really cool to bring someone from my country? Well, it can be really small things that you wouldn't even consider. Something that might be slightly rare in your country will be freaking awesome in this country. For example, one thing I highly recommend is the $2 bill. Something that barely exists anymore in America, but you still can get. Or perhaps a silver $1 or one of those gold Sacagawea dollars, if I've said that correct, I don't know. You should bring something like that and give it to them. For you, it's no big deal. It's $1, right? It's everywhere in your country. You can get it pretty easy. In Japan, it's very rare. It's something very unique. Anybody who comes to look at that will be amazed. It's the same thing as if you bring back the 5-yen coin to America. Everybody's excited about a coin with a hole in it. Omiyages. Bring them, make friends. Sending packages as you draw near to the end of your trip here and your tour here and your wonderful experience of the great Nippon, land of the rising sun, great red dot in the middle of the white rectangle. You might have bought too much. Sending packages home is probably your best solution, but be ready for some crazy prices and be ready for some things that you cannot or might not want to send home. Fruit, medicine, top 2 things I don't suggest trying to get through customs. Trying to get those things sent home, along with alcohol as well, is going to be more of a headache and more costly than what it's worth. Don't even try to do it. Skip it. A keychain, a tiny little toy, a deformed Gundam, something small from a toy shop. Choose something like that. Send that home. Don't try to send home big things. Don't try to send home anything based on agriculture or medicine. You're just going to run into headaches. Also, be ready for some expensive prices. Sending things, especially from Japan to America or vice versa, is not cheap. Something I deal with daily here in Japan. Returning home. Oh, how you are going to miss this country. Hey, be sure to bring a camera. Be sure to bring lots of pictures back with you. and try to bring as many little flyers, as many little free things, as many little trinkets. Save the packages from the food you ate. Maybe you liked a certain kanji on a can or something. Save it. It's okay. It's trash here. For you, it's a safe treasure you can put in a book somewhere to remember your trip to Japan. Try to save as much of the experience as you can. And perhaps, if you really enjoyed your trip, and you thought about, wow, I'd like to spend a longer time there, or maybe, gosh, I'd even like to live there, look for future videos that will describe how to live there, or how to get a job here. There's going to be a lot more in order of how-tos here in Japan. If you stay with me, I'm your man, Unrested. In the comments below, feel free to let me know what how-to you would like to see here on the Unrested channel. If you like this video, please, I beg you, share it. The more you can share my videos, the bigger I can grow, the more I can make for you, the viewer I am.